Good morning and welcome everybody to Norcal APEX Accelerator's webinar, Secrets to an Effective Capability Statement. My name is Amanda Anderson. I am the Program Coordinator for Norcal APEX Accelerator, and today I'm joined by James Forrest, one of our fantastic procurement specialists that we have on staff. But before I pass it over to James for this fantastic presentation, I do want to give you a bit of information about our program and how we can assist you with government contracting. So APEX Accelerators, formerly known as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, or PTACs, are a nationwide government-funded nonprofit. And we're developed and funded to help businesses just like yours with government contracting, from the very beginning stages of what certifications do you need to contract compliance after you win your first one. And with over 96 APEX accelerators nationwide, you can definitely connect, if not with us, with your local APEX accelerator for free, absolutely no cost government contracting. Next slide. Now, as for Norcal APEX Accelerator, we serve clients within the central to northern coastal area of California. And you can see a map of the counties that we can offer our services to on the slides. And we offer our services through three main vehicles. First, we offer one-on-one counseling where you can sit down with a counselor and talk about your procurement issues, what hiccups, what hurdles you've been dealing with, and have them work with you to surpass those, to get you on the track to being successful in government contracting. We also offer custom bid matching, which gives you targeted and relevant bid opportunities directly to your inbox. As well as our third vehicle of education and training and assistance is all of the resources and webinars and in-person events that we put on throughout the year, one of which you're already taking advantage of, our fantastic capability statement webinar. So as a little plug, if you have not signed up with Norcal APEX Accelerator, or if you're not within our service area, please do look into it. It's an absolutely free resource that you should definitely be taking advantage of, especially with how much we are able to help our clients. In 2022, our clients won over $900 million in government contracting. So it's a no-brainer. So I hope you're able to sign up with your local center. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to James.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Amanda. As she said, I work for the Norcal APEX Accelerator Center. I'm a procurement specialist, and I am just going to let folks know that the information we're presenting here today, it's accurate for our take on what it is at this time. If you're seeing this on YouTube in the future, things could change. It's all subject to change, and we're not going to send out the biggest mass email ever just to let everyone know it's changed. So just keep that in mind. I think just in general, when you're viewing information online, it's a changing landscape out there. Okay, so capability statements. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to quickly go through the agenda, and just a little disclaimer, another disclaimer today. We will be handling a lot of information today. So it will be drinking from a fire hose, as they say. So just keep in mind, you will have all the slides, you'll have all of this later, you'll have the recording. So if it's too much, I apologize in advance, but you will have this as a resource in perpetuity. It's going to go on our website. We'll be moving fairly quickly through there's a lot to cover. So we're going to cover the role of marketing in government contracting on kind of a high level. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what a capability statement is. Really important to know who your audience is. So we're going to talk about the kind of people that that you want to be reading your capability statement, what goes into an effective capability statement step by step, kind of the real secrets. It's called the secrets of an effective capability statement. And we're going to go into the secrets today. We're going to go through a template example. We have a new template that you can use for free online. And then we're going to have some time for a Q&A as time permits in the end. So we're going to start with some interaction here. I want you to enter into the chat what you think makes a good resume. So not capability statement, we're going to jump there yet, but what makes a good resume? So if you can just put into the chat, Misha saying simple, sweet, and concise. Yes, absolutely. Short and to the point. That's right, Robert. That's a good idea. Easy to navigate. Monica saying clarity. Absolutely. Quantitative evidence. I like that. That's a great term. Absolutely. Customized for the recipient. All right, great. Unusual, or Mary is saying, perhaps standing out. Emphasis on experience from Terry Gray. One page. Absolutely. Okay. Accomplishments are clear. So this is, that's pretty much it. That's all we have time for. Now you understand how to make a capability statement, everyone. No, we're going to keep going, but I want you to keep this in mind. Think of it kind of like a resume. Capability statement is very much like a resume in this sector, and a lot of the same principles that apply for what you do with a resume, you can apply for doing a capabilities statement as well. So especially, making it clear, emphasis on your experience, getting your audience, getting it adapted for the specific audience that you're trying to reach. So that's those are all really important aspects there. I'm glad you guys are all experts on resumes. You're already a big step ahead for capability statements. Before we dive into capability statements, I want to talk more generally about the role of marketing in government contracting, because this is very important. This is really what separates those who succeed and those who struggle in the government marketplace. So after the initial phase of getting registrations and certifications and things like that, kind of learning the ropes of how to write a proposal, this is most of your time is going to be spent in marketing. Don't be distracted by all those procedures, all the paperwork, all the red tape, all the online bid systems and all of that. It all seems kind of very bureaucratic and robotic, but there are humans behind all of these processes. Humans invented them and humans manage them. And humans are the ones that ultimately make the decision at the end of the day. Now they try to be objective, but it's a human landscape underneath all of this. So don't forget that. Always keep your eye on that prize. And it's just as in the private sector, marketing your business is key. So getting through to those humans behind these processes. And that's kind of what the capability statement is, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Here's sort of a theory on marketing, in the relationship between market research and marketing that I have. It has two parts: raising your awareness, which is market research, understanding the landscape, and then raising their awareness, which means how to convey your value. So in order to win the consistent opportunities in the government contracting field, the right people need to know about your business and what you can do, why you're great, basically. In order to do that, it's going to require you to become aware of them and their needs so that you can position yourself as the best alternative to whatever current opportunity or source that they have. And so the more you can learn about them, your target agency, other prime contractors, et cetera, the better you can promote your business. And this is a continual relationship. So it's an ongoing process. The more you learn, the more you can update your marketing strategy. So keep that in mind. This is not something that we're just going to create a document for and then set that in stone. And this is an ongoing process. And the reason I have the yin yang here is because they're related. These two processes are not just ongoing, but they're interrelated. So when you're developing relationships with government contracting officers or program managers, for instance, you're not just conveying your value, you are also learning more about them. And that's really important here. So most of your time spent in government contracting is not doing certifications and all that, or not applying for things on sam.gov. It's not applying for things on Cal eProcure. It's doing marketing and market research. So market research, raising your awareness, establishing relationships, and conveying your value, raising their awareness. The first part of market research, of raising your awareness, educating yourself, there's some questions that I want to just sort of throw out there that you should be asking yourself about the market that you're in. So what agency or office buys what you sell? That's obviously important. How often do they buy it? Is there a specific time of year? Does it go in a 5-year cycle? So when do they buy it? Who are the individuals in that office responsible for directing and issuing procurements? Is it the program manager? Is it the contracting office? Does it come from certain end users that give their feedback? Who do you need to talk to? What are the common methods of procurement in this space, in this agency, for what you sell? So you may not be aware of these terms if you're new to government contracting, but for instance, do they have Do they procure what you're trying to sell with a contract vehicle, with a blanket purchase agreement, with micro purchases? If there's terms that you don't know here, we're not going to go into them in a lot of detail, but just remember you have your APEX accelerators that can help you sift through a lot of this terminology. And who's your competition in this space? So who are other private businesses that are also going after these types of procurements? Not just your competition, but who are they in terms of potentials for teaming agreements, for teaming partners? They could be a prime contractor that you want to work as a subcontractor for, or the reverse around. You could be looking for subcontractors that are in this space that you want to bid as the prime and then hire them. And it's really helpful to team together both, for a lot of different reasons. So keep these things in mind. This is all part of market research. Establishing relationships. So once you've done what you can to understand, then you can use email, phone, networking events that are coming back in a big way after COVID. You can set up one-on-one meetings quite often with these stakeholders, small business specialists and folks like that. Get to know each other, do your power pitch. You can even use LinkedIn. So I don't think there's really any other kind of social media that's effective in this sphere, but most government contracting folks are now on LinkedIn, and I'm seeing folks drop their LinkedIn in the chat here. So make sure your LinkedIn looks good if you're going to reach out, but that's definitely a way you can build relationships as well. So this is your chance to make an impression when you're establishing these relationships. But importantly, it's also your chance to learn more. So what didn't you find out in your research? What couldn't you find out that you'd like to know more? So the more you know, the better you can do as presenting yourself as the most valuable option in the field. And so ultimately, it all comes down to wanting to convey your value or raise their awareness of you and how great you are. And I just want to get this out of the way right at the top. Your value is not your government contracting certifications. Those might help. So if you're a WOSB, if you're in a hub zone, you can put those on your capability statement. You include it in your marketing on your website and things like that. But that's not really your value. You may get your foot in the door in some places, but your value is not that. So it's not your socioeconomic status. It's not your race or your gender. It's not if you deserve a contract as a struggling entrepreneur. We see that kind of idea sometimes of talking about how scrappy and hardworking you are. That's great. And I think you deserve a contract. I think all my clients deserve a lot of contracts, of course. I'm a little biased. I love my clients. But that's not your value for the contracting officers and for the people that are awarding these. So it's also not that you're a mom and pop family run business, apple pie and flowers and all of that. Your value is what you can do to make their job easier, and what can you do better than your competition. See it from their perspective always. I'm going to keep hitting this point today because I think it's really one of the main takeaways. You always want to see it from their perspective. Don't get too caught up in your own mind. They have a need they want to resolve. They want to reduce the risk, and they want their job to be done easily. So they want to do business with people who are competent and who convey professionalism. So that's how you want to think about your own business. How can you solve their problems, right? Okay, so with this kind of general understanding of marketing and what your marketing journey will look like after the initial phase of contracting setup, now we're going to talk about capability statement. So I'll refer to them as cap statements because capabilities can get it's kind of long after a while. These are essential marketing tools in the government market. Cap statements are kind of like the key tool in your toolbox. So this is a really important webinar for marketing. It fits within the marketing sphere, and learning how to use it is going to be really important. So these are capability statements are expected by all kinds of folks in government contracting. So whether it's on the local level, tribal, transportation districts, CSUs, hospitals, school districts, all kinds, state, federal, of course. Really think big. A lot of different kind of government agencies use capability statements and expect them from their vendors or potential vendors. And not only do they expect them, but they expect certain key pieces of information out of them. So we're going to talk about that today. And as I mentioned, it's like a resume for your business in this sector. So if you wouldn't apply for a job without a resume, you wouldn't try to go after government contracting without a capability statement. So it is really important, and you've done it yourself a service by coming today. There is no one set formula to follow exactly. There's no holy template that's going to work for everybody. We have some ideas about what's going to be good. We have some ideas about what's going to make a good cap statement, but people will disagree. There are some, if you're working with the DoD under certain applications, they do have some templates for that specific purpose that you can use when responding to solicitations. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about a general capability statement. So just keep in mind that the formula we're talking about today is our take. It's going to get 95% of you where you want to be, but you can be adapted. It can be changed to fit your situation. This is not set in stone. So be thinking along those lines while I'm giving you this information. You might hear a different take, and that's fine. There's different ways to go about it. So we think it should be a one-page document. Very few exceptions. Typically includes these things, and I'm going to go through each one on the different slides, so I'm not going to break them out right now, but it should have your logo, introduction, core competencies, differentiators, past performance, a company snapshot, a bit about our company, industry codes, so NAICS and UNSPSC, that's the North American Industry Classification System, that's for the federal, or the UNSPSC is the United Nations Standard Product and Service Codes, that's for California and a lot of other countries, countries that are not the United States. And then government contracting certifications, licenses, contact information, your website, things like that. And then hopefully some imagery as well to spice it up if you'd like. So we're going to go through each of these things piece by piece and just kind of break them out and what they look like. This is the nitty-gritty of it. So this is going to be, in the introduction is a very short paragraph, a couple sentences describing what's special about your business. So don't lead with your certifications. It doesn't come across well if you try to lead with your certifications, because that's not really what's special about you. What's special about you is that you're going to do a really great job performing on this contract. And so you want to use clear, concise, and substantiated statements. So someone said, I think, quantitative evidence or quantitative language before. That's great. So this is meant to kind of tell your story and what you're good at and what you do without repeating your core competencies, differentiators, or certifications exactly. We'll go over what those are here. Core competencies, this is going to be a bullet list. Don't use narrative description, so keep it as a bullet. List in the highest, in order of highest competency or relevance to your client. So what are you best at? Put that at the top. What's most of what you do? You know, if you're a drywall contractor and you really exceed with that, but you can also do some other things, put the drywall on the top. Or relevance to your audience. So whatever kind of job you're going after, put those skills at the top. Same thing with a resume. You want to put your most relevant skills. If you're applying for an administrative job and you have administrative experience, put that at the top of the resume, right? So you want to customize to focus on what your potential client needs. And that's going to be a theme that runs through this whole thing. Differentiator section. Ask yourself, what makes you better or different? It's right in the word differentiators. Different than your competition in a way that's presumably better, not differentiator in a way that you're worse. And so this is some soul searching for you folks. You can't be good at everything. I would love to be good at everything. I would like to claim that it's true, but that is absolutely not the case. So do some soul searching and some understanding. What is it that you truly excel at? It doesn't look good when people see on a capability statement or a website, they list everything under the sun and they pretend like they're just the best business ever. If you're a small business, if you're starting out, especially, you know, if you're relatively low revenue and low employees, they're not going to believe that you're just the most competent business in the whole United States, but they might believe that you're good you're really good at a few things you really know. So are you cheaper? Are you faster than your competition? Are you more reliable? Do you have special licenses and certifications that help you stand out? Do you have a kind of unique experience with your executive admin team? Is your equipment better? So be asking yourself these questions. How can you convey your value? Be very concrete, substantiate everything you say. So don't just fill it with fluff. And that's kind of common throughout all of these different sections. Past performance is a very important section. This is really, I mean, they want to do business with a business that has been trusted by other companies and other agencies as well. So this is kind of the linchpin of the whole thing. And you want to select information that boosts the perceived value of your services or your goods. So you always want to include for every award or every bit of experience you're putting on here, your agency, your company that you did business with, the dates if you performed. It could be just the year, it could be a month or more specific, and then a brief description of just kind of what you did. For large ongoing projects, you can include more detail for these. So how much were you paid? How many end users benefited? The kind of information like that you can get on whatever helps kind of convey the value of what you did. If you have a lot of smaller projects, or if you that may be a little less impressive, maybe it was a micro purchase or something like that, they just did a purchase order, not an ongoing relationship, you can leave out some extra details. Remember, just this is flexible. All of this is flexible. Find something that works for you in your experience. So that's something we can work on together if you apply for services and want to work on a one-on-one basis. Customize your past performance section to focus on the potential client. Again, with almost every section, you'll want to be thinking about this. So you can list your experience in the order of similarity to the target audience. So if you have federal experience and you're applying for a federal job, put that first, and likewise on the other branches. You can list them chronologically if that serves your purpose as well, whatever's most recent, and you can list them by size, so the largest, most impressive contracts first. If you don't have government contracts under your belt in your business, totally fine. New businesses have to start somewhere, or maybe you're not a new business, but you're new to this field. You can put private sector clients, and that's great. Just only put them if they convey value, and put them if you're short on public sector clients. So list the government contracting ones first if you can. And if you are new and you don't have any private sector clients either, that is a struggle. We do generally recommend that you want to build your sales history in the private market first before trying to get into government contracting. But you can list experience that you have, or that your president or CEO has from outside the company. So that's okay. You just have to clearly label it as executive team experience. Now, here's a little trick. Even if it's just you, there's one person, you can still say executive team and still say we. That's a good little marketing trick there. Key clients, this is just an opportunity to drop down some logos that highlight your most valuable, relevant clients. We'll talk about that a bit later when we get into the template. Company snapshot, this is kind of a no-brainer. You want some information, just like, all right, what's some concrete details about your company? When were you established? If you have a CAGE code, that's from sam.gov or UEI for the federal government. Do you accept credit cards, purchase cards? If you have any contract vehicles, like a GSA schedule, California multiple awards, blanket purchase agreements. Again, we're not going to go into these, but if you have them, definitely list them, and specify if you service a geographic area. So keep these things in mind. I'll want to make that really clear, easy for them to know how they can do business with you at a glance on the very first page. Industry codes as well. So NAICS codes, as I mentioned, for federal, UNSPSC for California state agencies. Include the descriptions as well. Your capability statement is not being read by robots. These are humans. And I would guess very few people have all 14,000 of these codes memorized. So put the descriptions there as well, the simplest one at the end. And don't put too many. One is sometimes enough. If you do one thing and you do it well, that's fine. 10, usually too many in this context. This is a one-pager meant to give them a glance. If they want to learn more, they'll get in touch with you, or they'll go to your website. 5 is great, if you don't need any more than 5, in my opinion. Focus on the things you excel at. So don't try to put everything on there. And of course, the things that you want to do for your target agency. So it's getting back to that theme of adapting for your target agencies and your jobs. Licenses and certifications, start with your government contracting certifications. So on the federal side, if you have a WOSB, a woman-owned small business, or a veteran-owned small business, if you're a part of the 8A program, or if you're in a hub zone, you've been certified hub zone business, list that. California, you've got the small business enterprise, disabled veteran business enterprise. Other ones, WBE, MBE, DBE, won't go into them, but if you have them, definitely list them in your certification section. You don't need to paste them all over the whole capability statement, but good to have them there. And also you can include industry certifications and licenses as well in this section. So if you have a contractor's license, for instance, a licensed timber operator, so you can fall trees, motor carrier permit, so you can perform on moving services contracts with California state government, things like that include in this section. Of course, contact info and website, I think this is mostly self-explanatory, but so I'll just focus on a couple tips. List a specific person at your company. Don't just list your company's general contact information. Give their title, give an email address and a phone number. This is really important. Use a company domain. I mean, everybody should have a website. Really, I mean, I think in very few cases, unless you're kind of a sole proprietor working on Viper contracts and forestry or something like that, you should have a website. You should have your own domain. So if you're ABC Company, you should have abccompany.com or something like that. Having an email branded domain would be really, really nice, or a domain branded email. So that's always a good thing. You know, looks better than having @Gmail. But avoid generic email addresses, even at that domain, like info@ABC Company or sales. They want to know who they're reaching. They want a specific person. So it should, you know, ideally it will say something like james@abccompany.com. Include your company's website, of course. Also put this in the footer. We'll look at the template in a little bit. And of course, little sidebar here, just make sure your website looks good. Make sure it's functional, it's not under construction, it's updated, it looks nice. Have some folks look over it if they haven't already. And then finally, this isn't really a section, but imagery is nice. It really, you know, these are humans reading it again. So, you know, having something that conveys a value, fits aesthetically, kind of ties it all together. You can include kind of special equipment. So I have some trucks here, or the human element of your business. Like we have folks cleaning windows here. These are always good options. So you can get creative with that, and it is optional, but I'm a big fan of making things look nice. Okay, so now we have kind of a general understanding of the sections and what a capability statement is really trying to convey. Let's talk about who your audience is, because that's a crucial part for how to move forward here. There's different kinds of types of audiences. So you can utilize your CAP statement when connecting with any of the following. So contracting officers, government buyers of all kinds, program managers who are responsible for directing contracting officers and programs, small business specialists. All kinds of agencies employ folks that are just on the payroll just to connect with you, to be the liaisons between the agency and the potential vendors. So they would love to see your capability statements, or rather you would love them to see your capability statements so they can connect you. And kind of along similar lines, every federal agency has an OSDBU, or Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, and you can also use your capability statement with them. And then, you know, typically I am talking about framing it towards the government itself, folks who are employed by the government, but you can use your capability statement for teaming and subcontracting opportunities as well. And in that case, you're actually presenting it to other private businesses. It'll still have a lot of the same information, so just a slightly different audience to keep in mind. All right, I want folks to answer in the chat real quick. Do you think any of these folks that I listed here are usually the end users of your product or service? So are these the people who are enjoying your product or service? Go ahead and drop in the chat. Probably not our users. Christy's saying, Sarah's saying no, William, no. I'll just go back real quick. Here's the list. No, 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 no. Okay, that is the general correct answer. Yeah, so these folks are not the ones that are going to be enjoying your product, except in rare situations. You know, if you happen to be doing janitorial and the contracting officer works in the office, that's not very common. That's more of a coincidence. So contracting officers is kind of archetypical recipient for capability statement here. They're not using your products. They've been given a shopping list basically, and they've been told to get it at a certain price that's cheap and affordable and all of that. So this is a key difference from the private sector marketing, where it's really common. You know, you see advertising, you see all kinds of different marketing efforts that are appealing directly to the consumer, the one that's consuming or enjoying the product or service. And so, you know, you're kind of selling the benefits of the product. You know, it might be a whole lot of marketing language that's developed around trying to convince people that they will really have a great time with this product. The service is going to make their lives better. They're going to be popular and more attractive and all of that as well. This is really different. Of course, the government wants high quality services. That's largely a big part of the purpose of the solicitation procedures that they do have, is so that they can judge the best value, not usually, I mean, quite often the best value is not necessarily just the cheapest option, but really the best option for them. However, your contacts at these agencies, the people that are really reading your capability statement, they mostly want the job done cheaply, quickly, simply, and they don't want risk. They don't want to risk doing business with a company that doesn't know what they're doing. That's brand new, and it looks like they're brand new. So that's what this is about, is trying to get over that hurdle. How to present yourself as a business that's going to make their job easy. So don't waste your time trying to wax poetic about how premium and unrivaled your offerings are. Always see the interaction from their perspective. Understand your audience. So what is my company's value to them, not to the end user, but to the person who's been given that shopping list and told to just make it happen. Okay, so the title of the webinar, Secrets to a Capability Statement, making a great capability statement, or something like that. So this is really the points that I want to go over. These are the how to make it an effective capability statement. So we also have these on our website and the instructions document I'll go over a little bit later. But an effective cap statement, number one, first and foremost, will convey your company's value to the reader. That's what this is all about. I've covered this already, but everything else is secondary to this. Conveying your company's value. So think about how to do that. An effective cap statement uses clear, concise language with substantiated claims. A lot of you picked up on that with the resume example right at the beginning. That's great. So avoid using generic, flowery language, statements you can't prove. Probably don't copy from your public-facing website. A lot of you have really wonderful websites. I look at them every time I have a client meeting, but they do have this sort of flowery language that is very popular in the private market, and we don't really want to import that over in this way. So a couple examples here of some writing tips. Instead of saying, we offer the best or some of the best landscaping services in the Bay Area, you can say, we've serviced over 200 properties for 70 satisfied customers, including 50 Fortune 500 companies over the last 10 years. Something with the numbers, something that really conveys, okay, they're not just saying they're good. Of course they think they're good. Everyone thinks they're great. But what have they actually done? How can they put their money where their mouth is? So instead of saying we offer competitive pricing, do some research, find out what's out there. So you can say, our starting rates are 10% lower than the average quotes for the Tri-County area. That sounds a lot better than saying we're competitive. You're putting your money where your mouth is. And yes, writing this way is a lot more work. It's a hassle, frankly. It takes a long time. It's annoying, but this work will pay off. If you understand your company, if you understand the market, you are going to be able to convey professionalism and competency, which at the end of the day is your best bet at getting contracts. An effective cap statement is formatted in a well-organized and visually pleasing way. This should be a given, but it's really worth emphasizing. I see some pretty bland or confusing looking cap statements. You want to use columns, boxes, color blocks, bold fonts, bullet points, really just throw everything with the kitchen sink at it to make it visually interesting, to make it separate out the different section, make it easy to read. You can, if you want to get creative with it, definitely consider hiring a graphic designer once you have the basic information here. And we'll talk about this kind of theory of how to arrange everything once we look at our template in a bit. But moving on, a cap statement generally sticks to one page. And again, understand your audience here. Buyers, contracting officers, small business liaisons, all these folks, they see a high volume of cap statements. So they may see dozens every day. You really can't expect them to read a second page or reverse side if it's printed. They might, but you can't expect them to. So, if you are going after a large in-depth contract, it's, you have extensive high-level past experience, performance that you want to report. You can do a two-pager under certain circumstances. Most of you are not in that category, and that's not our intended audience today. If you're a supplier who wants to include your line card on the second page, that's not going to hurt. They don't have to look at it. Just keep in mind, really, they're going to want to go to your website, or they're going to want to talk to you if they like the first page. So the idea is to give them information, but also to pique their interest. And again, we've mentioned this before, but you want to craft it to your specific reader. This means you'll have multiple versions of capability statements, not just one. You might have a master template version that you put on your website. That's kind of your default one, but you'll have a lot of different ones, just like with resumes. And so you might have one for California agencies, federal agencies, one for local and specific agencies within these branches, and then even for specific jobs. An effective cap statement will be crafted for each specific reader. So that's what we're talking about here. Let's say you offer janitorial, exterior building, and landscaping services. We're not just talking about the specific agency, we're talking about the specific service that you want to do. If you're going after opportunity for landscaping, create a version that emphasizes landscaping in these sections. So in your intro paragraph, your core competencies, you could rearrange them or cut some out. In your codes, which is the kind of industry services that you're trying to do, and then in your past performance section as well. So if it's, for instance, if it's a federal agency, you're going to want to use your NAICS codes, include your federal certifications, and then prioritize and emphasize any federal past performance. Okay, this is the last main section here, using our free template. And I want to kind of roll our sleeves up here and really get into it. We have a brand new updated capabilities statement template that we have on our website. If you go on services, then click on capabilities statements on the right, you're going to get a really great web page with great resources for you. You can go check it out right now or right after the webinar today. This template, we think, based on our research and our understanding of our clients and the kind of folks we work with, it's going to do the trick for 95% of you. So it doesn't have to be for everybody, but we think it's going to, the vast majority of you are going to do great starting off with this template. You can fill it in. It's a Word file. You can fill it in, adapt it, and export it as a PDF. That's great. Just use it directly and just make your changes. Or you can use it as an example starting point and just kind of look at it, understand how it's laid out. There are a ton of other templates online. You can use all kinds of different inspirations to get varied. And then use something like Canva. They have resume templates in Canva that often get you started in the right direction. Or if you want to get a little fancier, you can use Adobe Illustrator and customize them. So that's a great way to do it. And again, you can mention, you can hire a graphic designer to help you out with this as well. You'll get these links, you'll get the slides, but this is also on our website. We get the free template and the instruction guide. And the instruction guide has some of the wisdom that I'm espousing today. So you can find this on our website. We want to make things easy for you. You can download them. This is what our template looks like. I know it might be a little small for a lot of you, so I'll zoom in a second. But this is, I just want us to kind of look overall about the layout. You can see you've got the blocks, different colors, you've got bullet point lists, you've got some logos. Your eye is drawn to certain places. It goes to the logo, goes to the key clients. Make sure those key clients are impressive if you have them. Contact card stands out. You got a footer, has all the information there nicely. And you can see you've got the intro paragraph, core competencies. You put some images in the top, company snapshot, your codes. And you can see how differentiators, past performance, and all of that might look on a little bit of a closer detail. So I'm not going to go through in a ton of detail with the template. I want to gesture to it, and then I want to tell you how you can utilize it. So, and then I think really it's, if you're anything like me, you really got to look at this document on your own to really understand it, and get a sense for what's in there. And then the kind of language that's in here is also going to be guiding language to tell you how to fill it in. So pretty nifty. And here's a part that might be overlooked when you're going through this. Just some tips about how to set up your file structure. It's really important to be organized when you're getting into government contracting. You're going to be dealing with a lot of paperwork, and you're going to want the information about your company and about your market to be easy to access. And that's also true for your capability statement. You should have a master template that you create. Save that as a Word file and as a PDF. Word file if you're using the template. We have some suggestions here on naming conventions, but really at the end of the day, something that makes sense to you and is easy to navigate. Have the date on there, your target agency, that sort of thing. And then creating specific versions. And so that's when the naming convention will really come in handy. So you don't have to click through 10 or 15 ones just to find the one that you want to recycle for another job that's similar to another one. And so you can kind of see an example here, what it might look like, working with the VA, doing landscaping, San Francisco, different dates here. So this is just kind of our idea for how to lay it out when you're doing the file structures. Filling out the template, you can right-click on these things here. So you've got the logo there. You can right-click on the logo. You can right-click on the picture and change them if you want to do that. Same thing with the key clients here. You can change it from a file. So if you have an experience with Word, just find the change picture from a file. And so just make sure not to leave these the CHP and the Department of State there if you have not done business with them. Don't want to get you in trouble for making false claims. And don't use agency logos anywhere else. Just kind of a disclaimer. Has to be really clearly labeled as key clients. Technically, you're not really supposed to use agency logos, but everyone does it on capability statements. It's kind of an understood thing. So welcome to do it. Just make sure it's really clear that it's a key client section and not you representing them. The third part, adapting a theme here. You can click on the design tab in Word. And if you click on themes, you can change the color. So you can see here, it's turned it onto, 3 different shades of this kind of orange or umber color. So you can do all kinds of things to make it look more professional or to adapt it to your taste. Exporting and sending. I just want to mention real quick, don't send this as a Word file. If you're using this template, it is in Word. Word is admittedly not the best image editing graphic design program, but it is very broadly accessible. That's why we chose it. You can use other formats, but no matter what you do, you're going to want to export it as a PDF. So if you're doing it in Canva, export it as a PDF. Illustrator, PDF. Word, PDF. A PDF is the universal, most accessible type of document for a non-editable document that you want to send. And again, you don't want it to be edited, right? Once you have your final version, you want that to be easily viewable as a document, as if it were a flyer, as if it were a one-pager that you could hand to somebody in person, which it absolutely could be, and you can bring those to meetings. And this is a great chance to review what you've done. So what have you put together, and just have a chance to take a look at it. Make sure it looks nice after you export it, print it out, hand it to a friend, hand it to a colleague, hand it to a coworker, work with your APEX Accelerator counselor to get some feedback. I love getting my teacher's red pen out. In another life, I was a professor, so I mean, not in real life, but in a past life, and I really enjoy giving that sort of feedback and working together on that. So the drafting process is enjoyable for me. So find people that do enjoy that sort of thing and then utilize them. Okay, I want to leave plenty of time for questions, so I'll leave you with some key takeaways here, and then we'll go over what we covered today. First, marketing should take up the majority of your time in government contracting. That includes market research. Market research is absolutely crucial. The capability statement is the key tool in your marketing toolbox. So really think about the role of marketing and market research and how important that is for your business. And I can tell you, it absolutely is what separates success from failure in the government marketplace. You can't just get your certifications, get in the vendor databases, even just get on a contract vehicle, GSA schedules, or get in the AAA program, and then not keep doing all of that work for marketing your business. You really have to always keep that pressure on. You can have a really amazing capability statement. You can listen to everything I've talked about today about how to draft and put the sections together. You can have it be really legible and nice and great. But if you're not sending it to the right people, what's the purpose? It's like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Like, you can do all this work, but if you don't know how to utilize this knowledge effectively, how to put it into a plan, then it's not really going to help you at the end of the day. So definitely think about your marketing plan and think about how this fits in. And it's all these different moving parts, right? I've said this many times, but it's definitely a key takeaway. If I could get you to convey one thing, always consider your audience. They have a unique perspective. I mentioned they're not usually the end users. Understand their pain points, what their lives are like at work, and write to benefit your company for their perspective. And that's very true for capability statements, as well as your website and any other interaction you have with these folks. And of course, work with your APEX Accelerator to create drafts and work through this process. And as Amanda mentioned in the beginning, we can help with all kinds of different forms of government contracting assistance. So we covered a lot today. I know I talk fast and we go quickly through these things. You'll have the slides, you'll have the video recording for future reference. But we covered the role of marketing in government contracting on a broad level, cover what a capabilities statement is and what it looks like on a fine-grained detail level, who the audience will be or could be, who you want your audience to be, who's reading it, what goes into an effective capability statement, so some of those tips and secrets there. And we went through the template example, drawing your attention to the template that we have and how to utilize it. And next, we're going to have some time for question and answer period. So I'll go ahead and hand things back over to Amanda. And thanks everyone for joining today. And let's get those questions pumping as she's going through the upcoming events. Feel free to enter them into the Q&A.
Definitely. And we have a ton of fantastic questions. And I also saw some folks in chat wanting to connect and maybe work on their capability statements and review together. So please reach out to, I believe Misha and Aries have offered to connect with our audience today, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. But before we do go into our questions, I want to make you aware of some of our upcoming events. On September 6th, we'll be doing a How to Do Business with the General Services Administration, the GSA, which can be a very good avenue for federal contracting. So that's going to be, I believe, next Wednesday. And then we also have our introductory webinar, How to Do Business with the Government, if you're looking for whether it's a refresher on all of the basic elements that you need to know, or you're still pretty new to government contracting and want to get a good foundation to support you throughout the journey. That introductory webinar on Thursday, September 14th, will be a great resource for you. And then we have some upcoming partner events and series that I would highly recommend. We're actually joining them and participating in. First off is the Bay Area E-Contractor Academy, which is a 7-week in-person series beginning on September 28th. They go over a plethora of things, even beyond government contracting, but we will definitely be there to help you out with the government contracting aspect of it. And we also want to make you aware of the Caltrans North Region Virtual Procurement Fair, and they're doing something very interesting, and they're actually going to be doing a pre-fair series to help you fine-tune your skills for the fair, where you're going to be meeting representatives from both federal, state, and other resource agencies just like ours. And that signing up before October 3rd will make sure that you can take advantage of that skill sessions before the fair. And with that, those are some of our upcoming events, but you can find all of our trainings at the website below, norcalptac.org/training/events. And with that, we can go ahead and jump into the Q&A.
Okay, great. And we got some great questions here. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to keep entering them into the Q&A tab. A lot easier to follow if you put them in the Q&A rather than the chat. So we're mainly going to be going off the Q&A today. We have a number of questions about NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and how to include your past performance for those. Look, if you're under an NDA and that's it, you can't disclose your experience, then there's not much you can do. I know that there are processes where you can request being released from them for certain purposes. That is not my area of expertise. I would recommend that you get in touch with your client and see to what extent you can use their information. But it might require, if you're under some NDAs, to get kind of creative about how you frame it. So if you can't list the name, well, that's that. You just have to sort of find another way to express that you have done this work or you could even list undisclosed clients and kind of figure out how much information you feel comfortable sharing. We have a question here from Christy about SBIR managing heads. That is not my field of expertise here with SBIR. So I'll have to go ahead and table that question. But if you're interested more, I mean, apply for PTAC, ask a counselor, make it clear in your application you're looking for SBIR assistance. But that is a specialized field. It's not directly relevant to what we're talking about today. Good question though. Okay, so Aries has a great question. In accordance with Saffron's question, may past performance of key clients be derived from past employment? And so I assume you're talking about a situation where you're talking about experience that you have with another company that's not in your main company, that you're actually making the capability statement for. And the answer is yes, absolutely. But you don't label it as past performance. Past performance indicates that it's this company that you did the work with. You'll put it under a different section that we don't have included in one of these main sections. You'll divide it out into a different section that says executive team experience. And that way it makes it clear that it's the team's experience personally as in their careers, and not the company that's performed on these contracts and clients and whatever have you. So don't put, the key client section with the logos probably shouldn't be from your past experience, because that will leave it pretty vague as to whether it was this company or someone else. So just as long as you're really clearly labeling key clients, you don't ever want to get caught kind of making false claim or misleading anyone. But yes, absolutely. If you're a little short on public sector clients, you can use your past experience with another company as long as you clearly label it. Okay, what's the difference between a capabilities statement and a statement of qualifications? The statement of qualifications is a more specialized kind of document that can be requested often in the proposal period. It can also be more common, sort of in-depth services. But a capabilities statement is a more general kind of document that's used in all kinds of government contracting environments. Sometimes they are used interchangeably, but I don't think that's correct. I do think that they have a difference. So generally, a capabilities statement is what you will want to be using when you're making an introduction and doing marketing, and a statement of qualifications will be used if you are more diving deep on, for instance, an in-depth service-based contract in the proposal process. That's my understanding of it. What items would need to be changed on the recipient? I assume you mean based on if you're applying for different kind of jobs, or not applying for jobs, if you're looking for different opportunities. Well, we did kind of go over that. Really, almost every section can be adapted. Your past performance, you can prioritize things that are most relevant for instance, the federal agency. Your NAICS codes rather than your UNSPSC codes, even your differentiators, your core competencies. If it's a different recipient here, you might want to frame your experience differently based on what you understand about what they procure, what they're interested in. So there's a lot of sections here that you could change based on who your intended audiences is. So really almost everything, probably not the company snapshot as much, your website, things like that, imagery maybe not, but almost every section can be changed to some degree. Thanks, but that is a great question. Aries is asking, are capability statements pre-screened with automated software similar to resume applicant tracking systems? I do not believe so. I haven't heard of that. Generally speaking, it's human beings glancing and spending about 30 seconds looking at your capability statements, and people that see a lot of them. So I don't believe that there are resume tracking systems kind of for capability statements. I could be wrong, but it's not something I've heard about in my experience. Okay, so who to contact in regards to assistance with creating a capability statement? Great question. You can contact us. So if you're in our service area, and Amanda was very helpful in showing all the counties in the beginning of this presentation, that are covered by our local area. You can apply for us, and you can request to work with me as your primary counselor. If you're not in our service area, just type in APEX Accelerator and then your county or your state, and you should come up. And there's also a website called aptac-us.org, where you can find a list of all of the formerly known as PTAC centers, Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, across the country. But we can help you. That's one of the things I personally love doing, which is the reason why I was eager to put on this webinar. So would love to work with you if you're in our service area. Cameron's got a question here. What are some unique tips for capability statements if going in as a subcontractor under a prime for government contracts? Yeah, so this is a good question. This relates to the overall theme of what we're talking about understanding your audience and adapting your capability statement and your whole marketing strategy for them. And so I would say, like, on the whole, a lot of the information will be the same. You know, it's the same sort of pattern where, you know, the prime contractor is not going to be the end user. You know, if you're selling goods or services, they're typically not going to be the ones enjoying it. They still will want your NAICS codes. They still will want your UNS PSCs. They're still going to want your certifications and information like that in those sections. But you will want to think about the specific nature of the business that you are wanting to work for as a subcontractor. Do your market research, understanding their pain points. What are they looking for? What kind of subcontractor are they looking for? And then put that best foot forward. So I can't give you kind of overarching tips. I think a lot of it is going to be applicable. So it's really going to just depend on the specific job and the specific kind of prime contractor that you want to work with for. All right, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate some kind words. Linda's asking, do you suggest we keep subtitles in the columns and boxes, intro, past performance, differentiator statement? Keep subtitles in the columns, boxes. Gotta be honest with you, I'm not fully sure I understand the question. But like, we can go back to just like an overview of the template here. Keep them in the columns or boxes. There's no one right way to do it. This is kind of our idea of how we do it. By subtitles, I assume you mean the different section headers. You could put them outside of the box or in the box, as long as it's clear. When the eye is drawn to a box, it's clear immediately what they're looking at. So I wouldn't get too hung up on trying to find the exact right conventions on how to lay this out. This is all meant as kind of a starting spot or inspiration, or you can use it as is, but there's no canonical right way to do it. So forgive me if I'm misunderstanding, Linda. Feel free to throw your question in there again if I misunderstood your question. All right, we have one more question here. Misha's asking, can we work with more than one PTAC advisor, different strengths? Typically, you're assigned to one advisor as your primary counselor. If there's a special need, you can definitely talk to them about being referred over for services with another advisor in the center. You know, I think it's, from my experience, simpler to have one primary counselor who's in charge of kind of understanding your overall contracting journey. But personally, I'm happy to refer folks over to other people on the team. That's typically not a problem. All right, Amanda, do we have any questions in the chat over there? Oh, actually, we're almost just about out of time.
We are out of time, unfortunately. So thank you all for joining us today. James, would you mind going to the slides, please?
Oh, yes.
Thank you all for joining us today. We are so glad we were able to get this information to you. And I do want to make you aware, before you head out, there will be a short survey at the end. Please do fill out our feedback survey. We highly value any feedback you give us, both positive and negative. If you didn't like what you heard today, let us know why. We would love to improve our offerings to you and our education assistance. That's really what we want to do. And I will also leave everybody in chat with a link to our capability statement webpage. So You can use that as well as the information you gleaned here to help you build out your capability statement. It sounds like a couple of folks are going to be working on that today. So again, thank you so much for your time. We hope you have an enjoyable day.
Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy, and I'll hope to see you in the future.